1, 2, 3. Un, dos, tres. Un, dos, tres, 4, 5, 6. Estamos probando el canal de YouTube. Ok. Hola, 1, 2, 3. ¿Qué tal? Probando el sonido. Estamos en el Salón Castellón y comenzaremos sobre las 11 horas aproximadamente.
apagar. ¿Encendido? Vale.
Ah,
Ahora, vale, había que darle más fuerte. Okay, so thank you for being here today. So this is a workshop that is organized by the connection of the network of computational biology and bioinformatics of the Spanish National Research Council. So we are kind of a recent organization that is funded by CSIC, by the council. And I would like to show you a little bit what we are doing, and then we will start with the rest of the workshop, in which what we are trying to do is to give some examples of successful applications in international funding opportunities, and with the idea of sharing what were the tricks that made us get the funding, and also have some kind of discussion on how the computational biology people can have success in these calls. You probably know that many times we are kind of associated, because we are going to be doing the data analysis of the question that somebody else's have. But in some other cases, we can really lead, right, the proposal, and it's about this kind of success cases. But about the connection, the network, as I mentioned, this is within CSIC, and it was created by an initiative of the president of CSIC to create collaborations between different types of researchers within the institution. And our objective is to try to improve and integrate and push a little bit this discipline within CSIC. So we are a network. So the CSIC is a nationwide institution. It has more than 130 institutes, and we are distributed across whole Spain. And we have a number of, I would say, goals is to increase visibility, to make a community, foster training. We are also working a lot of creating a catalog and a portal of all the knowledge and the tools that we have within CSIC in computational biology. We want to also attract younger scientists and maybe not so young scientists to our network, and also work on sustainable computing. This is some of the things that we are starting now. We have a junior hub, we have some seminar series, we have created already some courses. And what we have are different kind of working groups so that you can join them. Also, this is a CSIC network. It's really open to everyone. So if you are not a CSIC researcher, you can also join the network. And one of the things that is a little bit related to today's workshop is a new program that we are launching, and it is officially launched today and in this very moment, which is a peer coaching program. So what we really want is to help people to get funding, because at the end of the day is that makes us happy and be able to do our research. So the peer coaching is the mechanism in which we want to pair someone who was successful in obtaining international funding with someone who is planning to apply for this type of funding. So that we will create a kind of training pair with a number of training sessions in which the expert will help the other person to prepare their proposal, okay? It's a paid contribution, so we are able to pay for the coach time, and it's not bad paid, so I really encourage you to go to our website and look at this, and if you want to be at either side of this peer coaching program, please sign up, and then we will try to set this up very soon. And that's it. So this is our website and our X account, and you can follow us, and then that's everything that I wanted to tell about the connection. So let's move after this kind of commercial announcement. Let's go to the actual workshop. And I'm really terrible with Mac. With PC, and so I'm trying to use this as I really need help. How do you go here? Pues leave this here. Here. Okay. Okay. So yeah, maybe I don't have the Control L. Okay, so we have today 5 people here, and so this is the scheme of how we are going to be doing the workshop. So basically, what we are doing is each of us has managed to get funding for one of these international calls. So we will share our experience, our ideas. The idea is that we take some 15 minutes each, and then we will have some time for questions, discussion. So please leave the questions until the end of the session. And we have, well, myself is Ana Conesa, I think I mentioned that sometime. And so I will mention about this Marie Curie Doctoral Network project, and also about the Oscars call that is upcoming very soon, so maybe you want also to apply for that. We have also Maralba, who got an ERC. We have also Jaime, who has funding from the Chen Zuckerberg Initiative. And then we have Patrick and David, who were successful in different Horizon and EU funding schemes, right? Okay, so let's go about the Marie Curie. So you know that this is a program to create doctoral networks that basically implies that you have to define a theme, and then you have to create a network of PhD students that will develop their projects within a network setting. It's the same theme, and then they need to have a lot of interaction. In this type of programs, it's very, very important, not only the science, but the training component, because it's a training network. So you have to write a proposal that has a lot of training, and you propose like everything. So this network was it's called LongTrek. It's about long-read transcriptomics. So we call this the long-read transcriptomic European Consortium, like building the next generation. So how did I approach this? First, well, I thought that we were in a timely moment, so because we had that Nature Methods had called long-read methods as, method of the year, so it was a kind of hot topic and a good moment to start this. So this is something that you have to evaluate, that your proposal is timely. And in my case, my position as coordinator was good within this team because I have already developed tools. So I thought that I have some kind of authority to propose a project in this topic, right? I have different tools, they have been cited, so I thought I was in a good position. So for me, the key successful elements, that is clear, the proposal is clear, appealing, timely. I also tried to find EU leaders in the field. So I knew most of them, but in some other cases, I just went to PubMed and started to, to write Spain and long-read transcriptomics and see, who is there that I don't know, and then trying to, to find alternative members of the consortium. Very complete training program. It has to have high impact. In our case, we got a 5 out of 5 in terms of impact. So you really have to sell yourself very well. And I try to make it an attractive reading because, if you have reviewed projects and you have like 20 projects to review, you are sleeping, you are tired. So you really appreciate that, it looks nice because that sets the evaluator in a positive mood about your grant application. And then, so what I try to do is to create a first page in which I had it all there. So the first page, if it was only, you could just use that, and then you knew what the project was about, right? So I create a first page that will say it all, right? In which I post the research question. So, and actually the first sentence says it all. So I say that, are we ready to embrace long-reads technology as the upcoming transcriptomics approach? So that was basically, the goal of the project. It was already very clear from the very first sentence, right? A figure that illustrates what we are trying to do. We said, for example, something that's, and refer to an accepted hypothesis, so that you are creating a timely questions, like how are we going to be using these technologies for transcriptome analysis. I put my objectives already in the first page, very clear. And then I listed the researchers that were part of the consortium in the first page, right? So that, it was, and it was a dream team, so people that were very well known. So that was for the first page. Then also I tried to make a message that was constantly repeated, right? And it's that we are going to develop all the tools that you need to have to do transcriptomics with long reads. So we have short reads, and now we are going to have long reads in the future. So we need to have the same thing, but now for long reads. That was the message. It was very clear. It was very to the point, right? And this was repeated and repeated and repeated. So repeat, so that it's clear, right? And I also make the point that we want that Europe is a leader in this field. So it was kind of, we don't want to be behind, and we want to be the leaders. I also designed a training program. You remember that it's a very kind of important training program. So in which I was basically dividing this in like 3 components, which I called science and skills and values. And basically, what I was saying is like in the science component of the training, I want that my students know everything about long reads. So I'm going to design a training program so that they learn that, okay? And then skills, of course, they have to know the science, but they have to be able to communicate, to do networking, to present, to write grants. So I'm also going to define, a package to learn all these things. And the thing is, like, we also need that the leaders of the future, which are the people who will follow this program, are good people. So we are going to be, also training in values, because they need to also use their science in the right way, right? And so we are going to be talking about ethics. We're going to be talking about sustainability. We're going to be talking about, fake research or whatever, right? So we are going to be talking about values. And then these three things were kind of also core and repeated. Then I created, a lot of visual aids. So this is like the training program in which we have different meetings. And in these meetings, we are going to be doing the training for science, skills, and values that were listed somewhere else so that you could have an overview, right? And this is how, I define all the training program. Was very, very, very detailed, right? So I'm going to have a training in technologies. For example, introduction and packed bio-nanopore technologies, the different library preparation methods. So a seminar on this with the name of the seminar, the name of the person who is going to be doing. I mean, that's a lot of work to put all this together, but, it was very clear what we were going to be doing, right? And it was, for me, it was nice because it was the tables. One thing is that when you have problems with the space, put things on tables because you can reduce the font size, right? Because this table does not count for that. So I use, and also in tables, it's like you are allowed to be more synthetic, right? I mean, okay. So I have these kind of icons, well, in tools, I put tools. I was trying to make this pleasant for the reviewer because I have been reviewer and you really appreciate these things, right? Who has been reviewer here of grants? Do you appreciate these things? Okay, right. So my project was a camera, it's like a, then it was, so the thing of the impact was important. So I said, well, we will deliver software. So this has impact. And it's not only that we will deliver software, but I am trying to put people here that are key components of software delivery. So I have people from Elixir, for Goblet, which is organization. Well, I don't know if you know Pedro Fernandez, but he has been one of the most important people in Europe creating training in bioinformatics. So I use, in this way. Then, so things, the secondments, so we need to have secondments. So I put the secondments in a kind of, drawing like this, more tables, more logos, colors, consistency of colors, and all this stuff. And again, tables and tables to explain everything. So in the team of supervisors, what I tried is to balance men and women, but also senior and junior. So there will be junior supervisors that are coupled with a senior supervisor, and that will help the junior supervisor to be a good supervisor, right? They also like that. And then actually the research in which you really say what the work package are going to be is very short because you don't have space for most. So it's very objective, task 1, 2, or 3, and deliverables very short and very, because, it has to be innovative, but it has to be also very concise and a lot of effort given to the training. And also, again, so each doctoral project is actually very short. It's only in this way described. It's very, very, very short. One thing that is important is that each doctoral project is independent, and you don't create dependency in between the projects, because if one goes wrong, it should not be affecting the other projects. Deliverables, And then another thing that I try to do is not to get too many deliverables, because then you have to deliver. And usually I design the deliverables in a way that can also be delivered. For example, instead of saying I'm going to create, my deliverable will be 3 tools, okay? I say my deliverable will be a list with the tools that I have created. I can always create a list, of a report. So in this way, the management is much, much easier, and then you don't stress. I mean, of course, you want to do good research and to produce, but you have to take care that, then the deliverables are not going to be killing you because you have promised so much. So you promise that you will report in what you are doing. You understand the difference in how you set up this? So this is basically about how I did it, and I got a very high score. It was the first time I submitted it, and especially impact was because all these components of, the software and how we were going to be transferring this and to the society. Okay. And another tips is that do not add too many associated partners because it's a nightmare to deal with them. Well, if you are in CSIC, they don't help you much. So you have to do everything. Watch out for big companies because they create trouble. I have Nanopore in this consortium, and it's really hard to deal with them. But I needed this because, if it's you network on long reads, you need to have Nanopore, otherwise you, okay? Also, another thing is that make the start of your project somewhere in March, April to collect master students that are graduating that summer. So you get the best one because the best ones go away very quick, right? So you want that they apply as they are finishing this master's, right? And get a very good project manager who is committed because I was very lucky to have that, and she's amazing and she takes care of everything. So someone, that helps with the project management it's not that helps, but is really committed with the project is very important. So this is recommendations for a less painful management. Okay, so I'm gonna move very quick to the Oscars. So Oscars is another funding scheme that has been launched by the European Open Science Cloud, which is a European project to promote open science. And then they launched these Oscars projects in which, of this call, in which they are trying to put together different open science resources in Europe so that they are kind of communicating and being used and getting something out of it, right? So it was the first time that they put this together. So that was the first open call, and then how I approached this. So what I proposed is to do something on verification, also related to long reads transcriptomics applied to the annotation of the biodiversity. And then verification is important for open science, right? Because it's all about the standards. So I started with FAIR in my title so that it will be, and they thought that it was good. And then what I did was I used one of my tools for long reads, which is Scandy, that again is widely used, and Scandy is an Elixir tool. So I already have one of the components of the open science in Europe, which is Elixir, right? So I have this component. And we have recently used Scantin to develop a pipeline of, Scantin is part of this pipeline for annotation of non-model organisms, okay? So I thought, okay, if I have done this in this case, we did this with the manatee, maybe I can do it with more species. So I got in contact with the ERGA, is the European, that is a database that is collecting all these genomes of the biodiversity and all these genomes that are yet together, that they will, basically that my pipeline will annotate that we apply to the annotation of the data that they have in the database. So that was the other component, right? So now I have create something that links them together and then create something that is a better output. And that's it. So that's how it clear derivable, it was a pipeline. So it will be a pipeline that, now I have just a script, so I create a Nextflow pipeline and everything. The derivables were very clear, the pipeline based on Scanty, it will be a fair workflow, whatever that means. And I will also do, because I have this in the proposal, if the objectives are very well explained, since cluster is really clear, so it was because I have two. It was relevant, so basically that, and everything that was very clear and is, as computational biologist, you make a proposal, you are not with someone else.
And how it happened and what is the trajectory for those projects and how we plan for it and made it successful. But we are using science as medicine, probabilistic network, coordination was very expert to put the project beyond the academic science, right? So the SME were the coordinators, and then we're having like different groups. With, I don't know if Marta Cascante is here, but she was also part of this project. Now, how we make it work? One of the challenges there was, okay, we are coming from COPD, we are going to have all this comorbidity information, we are going to have we have different models, mathematic models, and then we also want to do network analysis. But in reality, no one really saw the bigger picture until we landed it and we make it like the effort on the writing. So following what Anna was saying about making sure that the narrative is perfectly clear, it has to be perfectly clear for every one of the partners in the consortia, because if not every one of the partners knows what we are going to do, that means that something is not really aligned in the project. That was my impression. So it took an effort, and also when we started the project, we realized that it took even more effort afterwards and after getting it. But it was accepted, and I have to say that over the years, the virtual physiological human got successes, and suddenly many of the grants from the European Union to get funded for this type of projects were down. So we were one of the few ones that were labeled as success in that sense. So that was a happy ending. Now, if I move to the next one, I will talk about the Stategra. And this is the project that Anna was the coordinator. And that was, I don't recall who called whom, but we saw, as you know, right, European Union, European Council is getting out grants, and then we see if it fits what we are doing. And that one was specifically for developing multi-omic methods. That was the moment where there was a growth of different technologies. And we were working actually with different technologies, and we said, we want to develop methods, we are doing that, so that call fits perfectly, right? So we started to contact different groups, and we thought, okay, but how we do that? We have the idea of methods, we have the idea of multi-omics, so ideally, we wanted to have a clinical application, right? And we wanted to go for collaborators with samples from the humans, etc. And then someone told us, it's impossible. You want so many omics that you are not going to get as much material that you need. So then we went to a cell line derived from an animal model and a collaborator on that end. So we try to put the pieces about what we want to do. So this project has three aspects that matter a lot. How to get, the model, and how to get all the samples and all the profiles. We have the method development, very aligned to this multi-omic, but also has a component that make it quite impressive, what was the SMEs and not SMEs over the run. So we got CLC Bio there, we got another companies that are not anymore and have been into knowledge-based management. So the idea was, we are not only developing methods, we are making them publicly available, but eventually it will also arrive to a commercial application, and someone is going to be able to exploit this or create these kind of applications. So that was the right call, because that was a perfect timing. I think we were all very excited. The skill set, the right team, and I think I put gender balance because that was kind of an important concept that we had in all the projects, right? Gender has to be addressed in two different things in the projects. When we are talking about translational research, studies should address what are the differences between gender. And this is very important because it has been omitted historically. And another thing is to overcome those biases that we have seen over the history, and then making sure that the PIs, we are reducing the gender bias that we observe on those moments. And that was, at least for me, one of the first projects where we show this very, very specifically from the EU. And then we arrive at a moment that we say, well, we have, 9 PIs, 8 men, one female. The gender balance was not there. And we took the decision, I think Anna was the perfect coordinator, but was also actually helping that we make this decision in the sense of the view of the EU. I'm saying this is I think it's a commitment that we have to make, but it's also something that if it is written there, it's not just ticking a box. It's really making sure that you specify it and make sure that it's clear. And also right now that there are, I mean, for equality, for gender aspects to address them in the project. So that was a really nice project, a really fantastic learning lessons. And from there, I went to the first that is really more translational. Well, sorry, synergy was translational. The next one that was really translational, that was about frailty. And it's an interesting thing because once you have started to get results on this type of projects, I was presenting on seminars. Actually, I was presenting here in Valencia, and there was one person coming and saying, well, we actually are trying to set up a project. We have all this multi-omic, and we want to address the diagnosis and prognosis of frailty individuals. 21 partners, that was quite a number of millions of euros, and there was only one team doing data analysis, that was us. One of the challenges there, and I see, because now being a reviewer, I have been, let's say, putting down evaluations of projects where I see that bioinformatics, machine learning, AI comes as an add-on, but it's not really an integral part, right? It's saying, I'm going to get all this data, then I'm doing machine learning, magic happens, I get this. For me, that's the recipe for failure. And we make a huge effort talking with I mean, what are we trying to do? What is the end point? And making it clear in the work package that was associated for data analysis. So it brought from an initial collaboration, and one aspect that was extremely important here is we were contacted, but we immediately initiated some type of collaborations. And this is very important in those projects. Sometimes we say, okay, we have the project, we bring different skill sets, we make it work. But what the EU wants also to show, to see in your application is that those collaborations are going to be functional. So if you prove that you have worked before, that you have success stories before, it's going to be a plus. It's going to address the feasibility. And this is something that we started to work, we were able to show something. Overall, we underestimated the effort for the data analysis, and that brought something that we try to learn in the next project. That was coming from the experience on Frailomic, but then the connections from the Synergy COPD put us in contact with Decision, with the CLIF, which is addressing the ACLF kind of syndrome. We started collaborations with them, trying to work. The idea here was, again, we start working right now with specific projects, with reduced funding, with something that we want, show that we can do something together, and in the meantime, we look for additional funding. And one of the aspects that I see that brings the success of Frailomics, breaks the success of Decision, and also Expand, is that the people coordinating and the teams were experienced in the EU project. So having teams that has been already there, it really makes things easier. In the Decision, we also brought SMEs, and we were even more involved in the writing because that had to be clear. And I think we are still ongoing with that project, but that was one of the big things. Now, I was showing like, well, we are moving from European project to European project, and maybe everything is connected. And I mean, how we start here, it was starting with the Synergy COPD, but sometimes we started to work on a project on gene therapy that was extremely exciting, Fanconi anemia, the first single cell on bone marrow, having from the same patients cells that were affected by the gene therapy and cells that were not. And that was quite unique. We were doing it with no grant, just with the resources that we had. And then from there, we got contacted to be part of a large consortia that tries to evaluate the safety of gene therapy in the clinical context, right? So there was huge, there was expert like Luigi Naldini, one of the core people of gene therapy. It's a really, again, the right call, the right team, because we have representatives of gene therapy all over Europe. And what was missing there was the bioinformatics. And here, I think we address not only the bioinformatics part, but also two big aspects. One aspect is the method development that we were pointing out in Statigra, okay, how we make it after the project, making sure that there's going to be something there, not just doing data analysis, but getting some results. And also, in the rest of the projects, we address also what happens with the data with the project ends. I mean, right now we send to consortia and, we send to repositories, but here we are trying to make something bigger that will affect most of the future, gene therapy projects. And that was also a key word that helped us. And that's it. Again, I want to point out, because I was reviewing that, what Anna was showing was projects where, okay, you were leading, you have a kind of clear message of what you want to do. Sometimes the challenge where we are coming, like, okay, we have the computational biology, the bioinformatics expertise in those projects is the coordinators maybe are not fully aware of what we can do or what we should do. And it has to be perfectly clear, and the writing that it's not an add-on, it's something that it's embedded within the project, has to be perfectly clear in the writing. Otherwise, it will not fly. And that's it on my side.
Okay, thank you.
I have very few slides, so if you can pass them, I can do it.
Okay. So you tell me?
Okay, I'll let you know, please. Okay, so good morning, everybody. Thanks, Anna, for the invitation. So I guess the first thing that we're going to be seeing is what Anna gave us her first message, right? Is repeating the same again and again and again, so that you guys will go home with a very clear take-home message. Is this one not working? I should be closer. Okay. So anyway, so my name is Patrick Aloy, and I'm at the Institute for Research in Biomedicine in Barcelona. And the key word of this first slide is personal, right? So we don't have any magic recipe for getting EU funding. Otherwise we wouldn't be here. But we have played the game a few times, so I'm going to share a few of my personal experiences. So next slide, please. So the first thing that I want to tell you is that, yes, we've been successful in several grants in different EU projects, but I personally, but I guess most of the people in the panel, what we have more experience is being expert reviewers or panelists, right? So this is key because this helps you understand the system. So next slide, please. Okay, so a few things that I learned about panels. So the first one is to disagree with David. So he said a couple of times what the EU wants. So the EU has nothing to do with your reviewing process. It's us, right? So there's no weird EU entity that reviews your project. It's us, basically. So you have to convince us that your project is worth being funded. So I'm here to talk about the EC, the different programs where I've participated. So these are mainly pretty big projects, so between 7 and 15 million euros, right? So which means that you really have to promise and deliver something that is relevant, yeah? So the panels are pretty diverse. So the first thing that you need to understand, and again, this is not carved in stone, this is my personal experience, right? So the first thing that you need to understand is that very few panelists will understand your project, right? So, but we have a broad idea of the field, so this is what we are there to evaluate, right? So whether broadly your idea is interesting enough to be funded. So, which means that basically the expertise that the panel brings is vision, novelty, and impact. That's about it. And you have to make it easy for the panelists to understand this, to understand the novelty and the potential of your approach, right? And then you need to get them excited about this idea. And as Anna has said several times, we see dozens of projects. So yours has to be attractive and easy to read and follow, because if not, we just fall asleep and then you're dead, right? So it has to be attractive enough, and you should be able to convey the idea, really the value of what you want to do, not the technical details, right? So for this, we have the external reviewers. So usually, if the panel decides that your project is interesting enough, we send it off to external reviewers. And these guys are real experts in your field, but they're not the ones deciding, because usually you get between 7 and 10 different external reviewers. So the panelists decide, but these guys help in the technical details, which means that basically they are there to identify potential flaws in your project. So don't screw up. So these guys will not make your project go through. It's going to be the panelists. So it's going to be the novelty, the potential, the vision, right? But the external reviewers can very easily kill your project. So if they identify flaws, technical flaws, then you're dead. Yeah. So don't show expertise in the field. So show them that you know what you're talking about, and provide enough details for the experts, not the panelists, to be able also to appreciate the novelty and, more importantly, the feasibility of your approach, right? This is what I would say. Then again, something that Anna already mentioned. So most panelists or reviewers will decide whether they like your project or not already in the abstract, first page, as she said, right? So you read the abstract, you read the first page, and then you immediately know whether you like the project or not. So if we like it, and the external reviewers obviously didn't find any critical flaw, then you're going to compete with other projects on enthusiasm and the potential impact, basically, right? If we don't like it, we're going to spend the rest of the time evaluating your project, looking for small things to support our idea that we don't like your project, right? So this is how it works. I mean, I'm sorry, we're human. Again, there's no European entity that evaluates, it's us. So if we like the idea, if we understand the idea from the beginning, half of the work is done already. Then the only thing is that you don't have to screw up. Then, of course, I have my favorite project, and Anna has her favorite project, and David has his favorite project. So at the end, we will have to compete in projects with your projects on enthusiasm, right? But the first thing is to get the panelists excited about that. And then another thing, this is again my personal experience. So you know there's this kind of dark fairy tales that say that, okay, if you want European funding, you need people from Poland and Romania and somebody of different ethnicities and blah, 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 because otherwise you have no chance. So in my experience, this is not true. So if your project meets the eligibility criteria, then it's evaluated only, or almost only, based on the scientific excellence, right? So it's not, the project was killed because we don't have anybody from Poland. No, this has never happened in my experience, right? Having said that, so the top scientists in the field are not going to be in these panels. So you have to go with the ones that are willing to participate. This is the bad news. The good news is what I call European magics. So I've been in a squillion panels, and I've never seen a project funded that was not a good project. So I don't know how this happens, but at the end of the panel, the projects that are selected are always good. There are many good projects that don't get funded, but the ones that are funded are always good. So I don't know, you put everything in a shaker, but at the end the result is pretty satisfactory. Next slide. And then some personal, not tips, but some things that I consider when writing my own proposals, right? So first, make sure that the project fits the objectives of the call. So again, these black legends around is that you have to go to Europe and lobby so that they create a specific call for your interest. I've never done that. I don't know anybody who have done that. So basically what we do is we look at the calls, and then if it half fits our interest, then we tinker with our proposal so that it really fits the objectives of the call. because this is not like the Plan Nacional or the ERCs that Mari is going to be talking in a second, right? So you cannot just suggest whatever you want to do. So the reviewers already have a pretty clear idea of what they expect to see, because that's what the call says, right? So you have to make your project, whatever it is, to fit the objectives of the call. Then, again, my personal experience. If you're one of the main partners of the project, this is coordinator or scientific coordinator or work package leader, whatever, so you should gather a small and solid team, 3-4 people max, and put together the skeleton of the proposal, right? So these 3 people have to write the proposal. And then you have to identify which are the missing or complementary skills that you need. Then you have to invite these other people to complete your team and tell them exactly what you expect from them. So of course, they are the experts in their field, so you cannot tell them how to approach their part of the project. But it has to be very clear to them what is the deliverable that you expect from them, which are the ones that would fit well in the proposal that you've already written or that you're writing. Then another thing that doesn't work is just to get together a bunch of top scientists, let them write whatever the hell they want, and then you staple it with a little bit of retyping and submit it. I've tried this a couple of times, never worked, right? With top people in the field. Just not successful because it was not a real project. It was just a bunch of outstanding scientists wanting to do things half together. Then if you're not a main player, but a collaborator, then basically you have to talk clearly to the coordinator and adapt your contribution to the objectives of the proposal. Again, you cannot do something that is kind of tangential to what everybody is doing, because then the report that you will get is Work Package 7 doesn't fit, right? And this kills the proposal. So you have to make sure that whatever it is that you do with your own expertise fits in the main objective of the call. Then, again, the ones that I'm presenting are big grants. So this means important contributions, and then what I would suggest is that you always have to provide some scientific and methodological novelty. So applying standard methods to tackle a new question is not enough, or develop new methods to tackle God knows what is not enough. So you have to combine both. You have to come up with new methodologies to tackle interesting questions. So, and this is part of the success in these grants. Then, more tips. There's very many. I mean, each one of these proposals is 150 pages, right? So at least 70 of these pages, you don't want to write them. Most of them, you don't even understand what they want, because things like socioeconomic impact, gender perspective on something that you do on cells or on yeast, right? So I mean, I don't know, how do you include gender perspective on something that you do on cell lines or on yeast? So these things might still kill you, because what I said at the beginning, so don't disregard them, because if people don't quite like your proposal or are so-so, they're going to kill you in this. Socioeconomic impact is not well described. It's like whatever the hell this means. So put some effort in this. And then on the other hand, if you can come up with something half smart, this might even help, right? So dissemination. Yeah, okay, it's not, yeah, everybody's going to do posters and papers and conferences. But if you can come up with something more novel, then these people say like, wow, this is good. And instead of giving you a standard 4, they might give you a 4.7 or a 5 on the dissemination, right? So boring as hell, this is not what you want to do. But if you put some effort on this, you will get rewards as well. And then finally, I mean, I know that some colleagues are happy with external companies helping in the grant writing, fee for service or as partners or things like that. My experience is negative. So we tried in a consortium a couple of times, and their contribution was not very good, and we didn't get the grants. And basically, I really don't understand why we spend the money. So again, this is my personal experience, right? I know that some colleagues are very happy working with some of these companies. And yeah, that's about it. Last slide, please. This is just to advertise a conference that we're organizing in Barcelona next March, because it's for free. So if you're interested in AI and drug discovery, please register, top list of speakers, and we're not going to charge you anything for the attendance, and we're going to even feed you. Thank you very much.
everyone. We'll do it from here. So I'm Jaime Huerta. I'm computational biologist at CSIC. I work in Madrid in the CBGP Institute. I'm here invited to tell you about my experience applying to these specific calls from the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, which is a foundation. I don't know how many of you are familiar with this, because this type of calls are very niche specific, I would say, and I cannot tell you how all of the calls that they have work. So I only have experience with one of them, which is the one that I'm going to focus. So if you go to the main website of this Chan Zuckerberg Initiative, you will see that there are many open calls, and they tend to have kind of a clear focus on what they like to fund, but they change, and they are opening new, slightly different calls, etc. So they usually like biomedical research in general, but they are very interested in single-cell projects, human-related projects, etc. And at some point, there was one specific call that it was extremely interesting for us bioinformaticians as developers. This was called the open source, essential open source software for science. And this was a call to fund software, which is, I'm sure that you agree with me, that is almost mission impossible to get direct funding to support a software or a resource, etc. Usually we try to hide this, not high, but get the funding indirectly via other type of projects, etc. So if you are developing a software, it's always to accomplish a biological result within another project, etc. This was exactly the opposite. So they were looking for software that we developed that we can demonstrate that it is impacting the field sufficiently strongly to get this type of funding. And they have been doing this. They initiated this as a test, I think, because I remember the cycle number 1 a few years ago. They said they don't know if they are going to continue this, because one of the questions was, this is very nice, but what if you, if you fund us for 1 year, that was a cycle 1, and then you stop the funding, what we do with the software, etc. But they said, okay, first we are going to try, let's see how it goes, and maybe we continue the funding. And that has been the case. Now we are in cycle 6, so they have been recurrently opening this call every year, and they have even increase the funding and increase the time span of the project that they were granting. So cycle 1 was small money and only 1 year. Cycle 6 is now 2 years, and I think is up to $400,000 what you can apply. They have also modified slightly the type of software that they want to fund, which is, I will tell you later about my experience on what I interpreted from this call, which, by the way, is a great call, but remember that this is a foundation, so they do what they want with the money, and that means that they are not even giving you feedback about why you succeeded or why you failed. So you don't get any report, anything. You failed, you succeeded. That's it. So everything I'm going to tell you is, I don't know, my impression or what I made correctly or wrongly. Have applied 4 times. I failed 2. I think I know why, and I will tell you my impression. And we got two of these cycles funded. So there is basically 2 types of software that they like to fund. One is for what they call foundational tools and infrastructure. And here, what I have seen through all these cycles is usually software that is structural to anything. I mean, here it would go Matplotlib or Bokeh or SciPy or Bioconductor, so super big projects, community-based, long trajectory, etc., etc. So if you are happen to be in one of those big projects, this is perfect place to apply for funding. And then there's the other category, which is what they call domain-specific software. In the beginning, in cycle 1, they were kind of open about the definition of what is domain-specific software, and they have been refining through the cycles, and they are now being more strict about what type of domain-specific they like. So they like domain-specific software, but somehow connected with biomedical research. They are very clear now about this, if you read the guidelines. So I have seen projects that were funded in the first rounds that are not funded now. And I guess the reason is that they were very good on something, niche specific, but they are not connecting very clearly with biomed. So probably they were killed because of this. Again, this is my impression. So by the way, we applied with ET Toolkit, which is a software that we developed for a long time well, I started this as my PhD thesis, and we continue to do it now from the lab. So it's also long trajectory software that we have been maintaining for different purposes. I don't know, because they don't provide feedback, if this is considered a foundational tool, because it is a Python library to analyze phylogenetic trees or clustering trees, etc. So it's kind of broad, but also very specific. It could be considered phylogeny, niche specific, etc. So I don't know in which category they are considering us, but this is for the tool that we got the funding. What do you get? This is the good news. So these projects are great for us bioinformaticians developing software, because they allow you to pay the salary for a developer, for contributors, to external people that are helping somehow, to fellowships, whatever, people working on documentation. It doesn't matter. They don't care. They just want to help your project, basically. They also fund, and they like a lot that your project includes hackathons, courses, whatever that is spreading or helping the adoption of your tool to a larger use base. They like this type of things, in my opinion. They also cover operational needs. If you need computers, servers, timing, Amazon Cloud, whatever, they are happy to accept all this type of flexibility in the budget. And they also like to fund actions that are connecting software from different projects, groups, etc. So as you start seeing here, they like a lot of the community style of development, etc. So they like projects that are very broad, that they connect with others, that they have a community, etc., etc. So as I said, I applied 4 times, 2 successful, 2 failures. I think I failed the first one for one specific reason, which is that I didn't understood very well the call. So I applied not only with ET, but also with some other tools that are well established and we developed, including some kind of command line tools that connect to databases, etc. They don't want databases at all. They were not super clear in the first call. In the second call, they apparently many of us did the same and applied with databases, etc. They don't want databases. They just want code, software. The application process is easy, really is not painful. It's just a few forms, not super long to write, etc. And as I will tell you later, what they are looking for is not a super lengthy document where you explain blah blah. No, they are very practical about what they are looking for. So they ask you for the same. Be practical. Tell me why this is super essential software worldwide, basically. Yeah, this is what I was saying in the last sentence. So they have this concept of essential, which is something that they judge. I don't know what they consider essential. Sometimes are tools that I've seen tools that are very niche specific, but they have considered this essential for the biomedical research for whatever reason, and maybe they are right, and they fund it. So I will try to go relatively quickly with this, so we have more time for questions, but at least touching some of my impressions, the general impressions that I got from the different application processes. So in this case, and different from other grants that we have here in the previous discussions, etc., this is not a personalist grant. So they are really, my impression is that they are really funding the project. It doesn't matter who is applying, to be honest. For instance, in my case, they ask for my CV, but I think this is just a check that you are not going to, that you know how to handle the money and you are somehow connected with the project and you are not going to the casino to spend all this money that they are giving you, because they really give you a lot of freedom with the money. It's a different model as what we are used here, where you are guilty by default. So here they give you the money and it's like, do what you have to do to make this work. And I've had interactions with the organization, sometimes asking for questions that I think that they were I had the impression that they thought, why are you asking this? Because I was asking, for instance, I proposed to have a course on this, blah, blah, and I was checking, can I change the location of the course and do that, blah, blah, and invite, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, why are you telling me this? Make this work. I don't care if you move the location of the course or whatever. Everything approved by default. And also you have an intermediate report where you have to explain that things are going well, and they ask you for some indicators, etc. But it's super easy, and a final report. Quickly. Probably not for incipient tools. This means that they are looking for well-consolidated tools. I have seen applications for tools that are great, but they have just started, but they are not meeting their criteria, which I think is tools with not only citations, but with community, users, external contributors, I don't know, something that you look in GitHub and it looks like, wow, this is consolidated, there is a community around, etc. This is my impression, but I have seen many projects that are good projects failing because of this. No databases, as I said before, don't even try. I think they are now super clear. No, we don't want databases, and I wouldn't even try to connect code with databases, whatever. No, just code software is what it works better. The more open and community-based is your tool, the better, as I said before. This is taken from, the last part is taken from the guidelines that they are providing, so you can see the type of things that they might look. They are super practical. They are going to look for how many external contributors, how many forks you have in GitHub, how many commits you do a month, how many pull requests you have, how many you are solving, this type of things. They are not only checking, they are asking you for this in the application process. So there is a form where you have to fill all these numbers. How many times your project has been forked, how many times this has been used in other projects, blah, blah, etc. And they also want to see, want to understand the impact on the biomed research. They also like that your project is not like, I'm getting the money to fund myself and continue developing this. They want to see, in my opinion, that you are moving forward with the project and making it even larger, increasing the adoption, etc. So they like hackathons, as I said, courses, whatever that is helping to create a community around the software project, it is very good. So in my case, the first time I failed because of the database, and also I realized that we were not having a roadmap in the GitHub. We were not having a from an external view, it was not a super well-organized project. So we also made some effort to organize where are we moving with the project, how we are going to do this, there's some steps, some roadmaps, etc. And I think they value this. They are also very interested in this type of diversity and equality questions that they ask you about how you are going to take this into account, and they take very seriously. They even tell you how you can address this type of things, and I think it's good. And they really take it very, very seriously. Like, I don't know, if you are just 3 men developing this tool, what are you going to do to involve more women or this type of things? They really want to hear how you are going to address this, which is sometimes difficult, but they want to at least make you aware that you should make something to change that. And I think this is the last one, because there's no feedback at all. What I have done all the time is reading very, very carefully the guidelines that they give you. Everything is there. So try to meet every single point that they say there. If we are looking for impact here and here, then demonstrate this, and they want to have proof. So in our case in ET, which is kind of transversal, for instance, we were proving with papers, I don't know, very good papers where they were, ET was used for COVID during the pandemic, for instance, or for biomed research in this and this area. So we gave them examples about how the tool is helping other researchers in the biomed field. And I think this helped. So we provided examples and things that they can check that we are not lying on this. I think I'm going to stop here, and if there are more questions later, happy to discuss.
Sí, 5. Yeah. Okay, my name is Mar Alba, and I'm very happy to be here And my presentation will be really short. I think it'll be 5 minutes or 10 minutes maximum. So then we have time for questions still. I'm going to talk about the European Research Council grants, the ERC grants. I got one of these grants 2 years ago. It's the only experience I have with these grants. It was my first time, so I was really lucky. And I haven't been a panelist, but I know a little bit. They have told me how it works also on the side of the reviewers. And maybe I can also say something about that. So these grants are for individual researchers. You are the main PI, and you're supposed to, it's your group who's going to do the work. It's very important that it's a groundbreaking idea. You really have to sell that this is going to be something different, that is not just a continuation of your work. Here you should include things that you haven't done before, you normally do. That's what they told me. I did it, it worked. And it has to be a high-risk, high-gain project. So this means that it's quite challenging. You have to propose an idea that has to be a little bit crazy. And they may give you a lot of money to try to prove that. But if it's successful, then it's going to make an impact. It's going to make a change in the way that we do things, or we understand biology, or certain aspects of biology. I think it's good that it's different fields. It's multidisciplinary, the project. And here you can engage. You can say you hire people that have expertise that maybe you don't have, to cover that part of the project, and I think this is not penalized. And it's important here that on the contrary to other projects, the latest one, here that they are going to evaluate your CV, your capacity to do the project, and this is going to be done also by the committee, but mainly also by the reviewers that are going to evaluate that part separately from the project. So as you probably, many of you know, there's different modalities. There's more junior ones, there's a starting. This is for postdocs. So if you are a postdoc here, I encourage, you can already try that. Here, of course, the CV and this thing about the scientist is not so important because you don't have so much experience. So if the idea is very good, you may get funded as a postdoc, and then this would maybe help you move to a PI position. The consolidator, you already normally are a junior PI, and some of the people that get the consolidator have already had a starting grant, so it's for a little bit more senior researchers, and this is 2 million instead of 1.5 million. It's project for 5 years, so this is quite long projects, which is really nice because you have time to develop the idea, to do experiments, to get into new techniques. And then there's the advanced. It's the one I had, which is even more money. So you can hire really a team of people covering the different expertise you need and have money for experiments. In my case, I'm a bioinformatician, but with this grant, we could set up a lab and do some experiments. The synergy is for groups of PIs, and I don't have any experience there. And there is different panels of experts in the life sciences. There's, I think, 9, and 3 of them would fit bioinformatics expertise like ours. The molecules of life has more elements of like structural biology, modeling. Then there is another one from genes to genomes and systems to systems, more bioinformatics, omics for personalized medicine, more genomics. And the third one is the one I applied to. It's more focused on evolutionary biology, which is my main field of expertise besides bioinformatics. So how does this go? At the beginning, some people find it a little bit, it's quite involving to write these grants because you have to write 2 grants at the same time, a short one, which is called B1. It also has the CV in it and an explanation you have to sell yourself also and say why you can do this project. And at the same time, the same application time, you have to submit the B2, which is the actual project, the longer project. It's not terribly long. It's not much longer than a project from Ministerio. But there, of course, you give more details. And the panel, this committee that is the first filter you have to pass, they are only going to see B1. It's like the summary, but it's 4 pages. So they really have to like this project. It's the only thing they will see. Many of them are not experts at all in your field. Here in my panel, there was people from ecology. I don't know who really review it, but of course you have to explain it in an easy way, why it's important, and the main points, and that everything is very clear. And then if it passes this filter, then they will tell you you can go to the interview. But in the meantime, there's quite a large number of reviewers, 8 to 10, that are going to review your project. And these are experts, international, of course, worldwide experts. And they probably, because it's your field, they probably already know you. They really have very detailed insights. They understand the project. If you say something that is, not well accepted in that particular field, I mean, they may detect it. So that's really the judges are those ones, and they'll give you. Then you'll be depending on what they say in these reviewers, you'll be ranked in a list of all the people that passed the first step, and that goes to the interview. So once you go to the interview, there's already these reviewers have judged your project, and you have a number of points, and you are ranked. And then you do the interview. If maybe you have been ranked very low and you do the interview, but maybe then it doesn't go well, maybe it's because, so the two things count. It's not only the interview, but also it depends on what the reviewer said. And then if you pass the interview, but with the reviewers, then the full proposal, maybe it will be funded. In my panel, it was 35% of those interviews. And then I don't know how many overall, but maybe the rate of success could be around, I guess, 10 or 15% maximum. And I don't want to explain in detail, of course, my project. We don't have time either, but just to say maybe that besides the bioinformatics aspects, which are in the middle, it had to do with evolutionary questions, and also I added these experimental validations. I think that was important. I think without that, it wouldn't have been enough. So you really have to combine different things from different fields. I think it's important. And also clearly state why the difference it would make. If your hypothesis, this idea you have was correct, in this case, because I was proposing that the number of genes in different individuals is probably not going to be the same. If we collect this information, then there'll be more genes as we sequence RNA-seq and other techniques from sample from more individuals, and et cetera. So comparing what is our current view with where we to take us if our hypothesis is correct. This is the last one. So 4 or 5 things about what I did. I waited. I had to apply for an advance, and I said I had to wait. I mean, I had been thinking about it already years before doing it, but I waited to have certain, cachet or have a good CV, because I think without that I was not going to make it, especially for advance. I started writing early, and I kept working on the project for about 5 months until I submitted. I had time to make changes, and I did quite a lot of changes. So I think for me, at least, starting is a good thing, and then I always know I can change it. So it's not that everything should be in your head already. You could start writing and then see how it goes. I propose experiments. The questions were more on evolutionary biology, and I did sample for this from 2 different groups, and they provided letters of support. And I did a mock interview, and that was really useful to give me confidence in the actual interview. I think that's all I wanted to say.
Okay. Questions? There is one over there.
So I just have one overall comment.
Wait, hold on. Otherwise they cannot hear us online. I will pass it.
So I just thank you all of you, because it was actually
I've been suffering grant writing and grant reviewing, so I feel you. I just wanted to mention that, I mean, Chan Zuckerberg is from the US, but I think for everyone to know, like, I mean, you need a US partner, but there are options also in the US to submit proposals. DOD, I mean, NIH is a little more challenging, but there are also partnership between the Spanish agencies and NIH, for example. In this case was for neuroscience. And I mean, in my institution also people forget about the other side of the Atlantic, and they also have opportunities. And the most important thing, I'm also for everyone, is that we are very cheap labor. Like, if you compare with the US, you can do a lot of things with much less money than what they ask. So it was just to, for everyone to know that there is also this other side of the Atlantic that you can also look for funding.
Can I mention on that?
Yes, of course.
So I have been for 7 years in the US system, and I have applied and also got funded by NIH. That's what you said is true, but there is also, you have to realize that because I also been evaluator of NIH grants, there is always this question, is the justification of the international component. So really to be able to make it as people outside the United States in NIH, you need to prove that the expertise is not within the United States, or that you have a long-term collaboration with this person so that you can prove that the team works. Someone was saying about having publications together and so forth. So that's true, but in general, if you talk to the people, they don't like to send money.
No, I mean,
outside.
actually our last NIH got killed because of that part. So, I mean,
but it's possible. I mean,
no, but there are actual specific mechanisms where there is a partnership between NSF and NIH and the
so
Spanish.
now there are some going on neurosciences. That's,
yes.
The Spanish part is paid by
yes.
Spain, and the US part is paid by NIH. These are really great because then it's really international.
Yes. I mean, these kind of things that people sometimes don't look there, and there are opportunities for funding.
Yeah. More questions, comments here?
¿Me o...?
Ella. Señorita primero.
No.
Yeah, but she's the boss.
She's the boss, and I say that the battery speaks first.
Okay, thank you very much for this workshop. It's very interesting. I would like to ask to the last speaker, in the first sentence he said, I decided to wait, I have enough high impact.
Until I had, there's a word missing.
The question is, for you, in your opinion,
what is this? What is this, right?
Yeah. Right.
I did not have any Nature Cell Science as a last author or first author, so it's not so difficult. I mean, I don't mean, I mean sort of publications that are the top in your field, or or that type Nature Communications, these kind of things that are very well regarded, but they don't need to be a Nature Science publication. But I think the important thing in my case was that that the reviewers felt or thought that I had contributed already to the field of this particular field of the birth of new genes, de novo in evolutionary biology, and that the topic continued to be that, but moving into populations, moving into doing other things. And I think that was enough to rank me highly without really very, very impactful publications according to journal high impact values.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Well, thank you very much for these talks and the support with all these ideas. I will ask you about the excellence levels that you have sometimes in the projects where you are not in the magic, like Patrick said, but they were really good. You passed the threshold, but at the end you don't get the financial, no? And in some of these grants, they give you this excellence label. If you recycle the project for calls European, this is valid for something or for anything? I know for some other countries, at the national level, they validate this level, but I think that in Spain, no. But I don't know if in other grants in Europe, if you recycle and say, okay, have this level.
So we in these big European calls, so basically we don't have the information whether a grant is a resubmission and the punctuation that it got in the previous round before we have made the decision. So, and then you open it, and then when you say, okay, and now I rated it as a 40, and before it was a 47, you say, damn, and then you have to play a little bit with this. But this cannot affect the final outcome of the call, because this is decided before you know that is a resubmission or before you know the score. What is true is that, of course, I mean, the panels, I mean, they might change, but we all should have similar opinions. So if you have addressed the comments that you got from a fairly positive review, I mean, your chances are pretty high that it's gonna fly better.
Thanks.
Do you wanted to say something, Carlos? We don't have questions from the...
Okay, thanks you all. It was very useful. One very comment for you, Anna. It would be perhaps a very good idea to take all these notes and make something useful for the documentation of the connection or something like that. It will be useful for all of us, and it will be there for a long time. And for Mar, you said in your talk that you, for the ERC grant, you have to do something that you haven't done before.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly in your case, can you explain a little bit what was that in your case, and how do you address the possible criticism that you don't know what you're doing?
Right. Yeah.
That's the tricky question.
Yeah. In my case, so I had always been doing comparative genomics, comparing data from different species and working on gene evolution or genome evolution. And in this case, I was moving into population genomics, and I was, for example, proposing to detect signatures of natural selection and things using methods I have never used, I have never worked on. And then there was also doing some experiments to validate, and then finding mutations that affect this de novo gene birth process, which is something I haven't done in population genetics. Population genetics, of course, is an old thing, so this is quite... But I think it was then also the combination of doing experiments to validate some of these things, report the constructs. But nobody really complained about that I didn't have the expertise. So I was a little bit, I mean, the lab thing was maybe the thing I wasn't sure about, but nobody said anything.
So, sorry, Bruno, if I may, I mean, just as an anecdote, I'm going to put names because some of you know her. So I got my ERC grant the third time that I applied. First time, both Saad Heichmann and I applied at the LS2 panel. Neither of us got it. And then the comments that I got is that the proposal was too innovative and I really had not done any of this before. And then the comments that she got is that the proposal was too continuous, and this is basically what she had been done in the last 5 years. So,
I think it has to have elements of both. I think they have to sort of feel that you know what you are doing, but at the same time, you should try to move into new directions, to be a little bit courageous, and otherwise they say yes, you are already doing that, so why is such a big grant? You don't need it.
Okay, so I think that, we can wrap it up here. Thank you very much for being here. So this has been broadcasted and will be in the YouTube of the Conexión, so that you can rewatch this anytime you want, and you can put likes and whatever, and tell everybody to do that. And I think that we can move now to the plenary, and Jaime will be talking. Thank you.